All right, and welcome to Bayou Time. I'm Martin Falls, and very pleased to have on the set the newly elected sheriff of Terrebonne Parish, re-elected without opposition, Sheriff Tim Soignet. Sheriff, good to see you.
Thank you, Martin.
You know, we've talked. God, seems like the election was just yesterday, and you ran. You did a great blue collar kind of campaign. You shook a lot of hands. That Marine came out in you. And you go through all these years, and then you put your name, of course, back up for reelection, and nobody places their name against you. And I told you the other day, I never heard a rumbling. Maybe you did, you're in that circle, but I normally hear if somebody's going to run, it normally leaks out to the TV station somewhere. Never heard an inkling of anybody running. So I guess, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
Secondly, did you ever think that would happen?
No, sir. I do believe in our Constitution and democracy. People get a choice, and people can exercise if they decide they want to run or not run for an office. But look, it takes a lot to put your name out there, and there's a lot of candidates for parish president. There's a lot of seats that are opening up, and people put their name in the hat. To put their names out there, that's a lot. To put out and really get out there and do the work. And so my hat's off to them, and I feel very blessed and humbled at the same time, because I know what I went through my first election, because there were 7 candidates on the ballot, and that was, like you said, it was a lot of work to get there, and every day doing the job is a lot of work. But, I'm humbled that the people, maybe I realize you can't make everybody happy. I got to follow the law, and I'm always going to do the right thing, and we continue to do that. And sometimes in the process, you don't make everybody happy, but I think for the majority of our community, they're pleased with our service and what we're able to provide for Terrebonne Parish, and we're going to continue to work hard to do that.
Isn't that sort of where the rubber meets the road? Because you just made a great point. You're the sheriff. You're not always going to make people happy. You're going to rule by the law. You're going to charge people by the law. But at the end of the day, the smarter person who realizes, well, the sheriff's become pretty popular, I'd be wasting a lot of money if I go ahead and run at this point. So I think people are smart enough where sometimes they sit back and they weigh things out and they go, well, now's not the right time to run against the sheriff. And I think I must say that of all the sheriffs I've interviewed over the years and of all the parish presidents, everybody has their own niche. But I think your niche came after hurricanes and tropical events, when you went into action and you did housing for deputies. And well, there's nothing like a happy deputy when they have a house to live in, when their house is damaged. That was a spur of the moment thing, but it worked pretty well, didn't it?
It was the right thing to do. Anybody's lived through a hurricane, and we all have, and the chaos. And prior to the hurricane, we spent a lot of time here at the news desk trying to keep people updated. But then after the devastation, when 10% of your manpower has lost their homes, you got to do something. Like I told my guys, even during that time, I said, look, we got to maintain this pace and get our community back together. I said, you let me figure this out, and y'all keep doing what y'all doing. And I try to take the worries and cover, I guess, behind the scenes stuff that bothers an officer. Like, he's worried about his family and he's out there doing it. How am I going to get this for my family? They're out there helping the community. And then at the end of the day, wait a minute, I got to get the same things for my family. So let's support the ones that are out there getting the job done. And to me, that was the easiest thing to do. To me, it was the right thing to do. But the most important thing, they maintained a tempo for 30 plus days, day in, day on. I call it day on and stay on, because they were working 12 hours, getting off 12 hours, working 12 hours, getting off 12 hours. So a lot of the things that they were really concerned with, we picked up that slack and make sure we're taking care of our people that are out there taking care of our community.
But now that you're more in the administrative role, you did administrative things for Sheriff Larpenter before, and the previous sheriff and previous law enforcement. And you had to go in schools and teach seminars on active shooting and a lot of different things. But when you become the sheriff, really the administrative role really amps up, and you're more in the administrative role, but I guess because you were so active as a deputy, you never forget, do you?
No, it's like one thing, I'll share a story with you. He was a full bird colonel, and when I was in the service, and he told me a long time ago, when I was a young staff NCO ranked, when I was a young Marine staff NCO, and I got selected as an officer, and I said this guy was very, like almost like a mentor. And when I messaged him, I got selected as an officer. I wish you could be here. I'd have you pin the bars. And he replies back. He says, I'll be there. And then when he saw me, he acted like he was disappointed, but he wasn't disappointed. He said, I just want to get your attention. He said, who you are is where you're at today. He says, you don't change. Don't forget where you come from. And remember to do that. Remember, keep doing the things that you're doing, because it got you to this point and it's going to carry you through life.
And that Marine mentality, which me and you talk about a lot. Hold on, I'm going to come back. We'll talk more about that. But right now, once again, we're with the sheriff of Terrebonne Parish. He's no debates, no forums. He's reelected without opposition, and he'll hold the seat for several more years. We'll take a short break. We'll come back with Sheriff Tim Soignet. Don't go away. Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health Systems, modern technology, and timeless caring. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bourke, know your rights. All right, welcome back. We are with Sheriff Tim Soignet. I want to say newly reelected, because that's what he is, but without opposition. And as we're in the break and we're talking, once again, I've on this news desk for nearly 40 years. I've interviewed many people. Everybody has a different personality. And a lot of personalities work for that person. Your personality, to me, we talked many times. We shared the story many times of my father and your father going to take a few mandarins off the mandarin tree. And the teacher confronted both of them and said, why are y'all jumping over the fence and stealing the oranges when you come knock on my door and I'll let y'all have some?
Matter of fact, my father said, use the gate so you don't jump the fence and get hurt, and only take what you're going to eat.
I didn't know your dad, but I could see my dad
That's right.
doing it. But life's lessons. Isn't that part of being a sheriff, and you got younger deputies coming on? And I know, look, we're not going to air any laundry, but I know there's times when they're sitting in your office and you're going, you did what? But it's a life lesson. They got to learn from it, and everybody's going to make mistakes, but learn from it.
And I think that's the important thing. I think even in life is learning what worked and what didn't work, and then moving forward. And especially as being a sheriff is like, look, the most important thing our officers can learn from day to day, if they make a mistake, learn from it. And that's how you self-improve. We hope from self-improving, but even as sheriff, I'm not going to say I made every perfect decision. However, we definitely learn from certain things, but we move forward and we continue to move forward.
Isn't it neat for you, though, as a sheriff? Let me get into the psychology, I guess, of personality. When I first met you, you do have a military background. You bleed Marine. There's no doubt about it. So you do come across sort of stern, sort of to the point, and just give me the facts kind of person. But as I got to know you, and I'm sure your deputies are the same way, outside that Marine facade is a man with a big heart. So I guess being sheriff, you get a chance to show that a little more, don't you?
They see it, and they know.
Yeah.
You know, the best thing I have, and I'll say it, and I said it before, the best thing I have is my officers that do their job every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognize that. And I just want to make sure I get everything. I can give them everything, and we can give them everything and be successful in what they do every day. Mm-hmm. I owe that to them, and I owe that to our community. And that's probably one of the most important things to me. You know, the only way I'm celebrate success is make sure my people are successful. Their success can be mine, but I got to make sure they're successful.
Right.
And, you know, in the bigger equation of things, if I give them what they need, they're providing the services, they're doing things right out there, that's the success of my office. Mm-hmm. I'm the office holder, but they're the success.
What's the things you're most proud of? If you could pick on just a handful of things that helped your officers or helped the office itself, what do you think you did that really sort of moved? Because everybody, whenever somebody takes over a regime, I don't care if it's parish president, sheriff, whatever, they always want to advance the department. It's human nature. What do you think some of the things you did that's really helped the department?
I think, you know, during the hurricane, when a lot of damage was done and everything that happened, I had officers that worked corrections, and the guys that work corrections, well, we had to evacuate everybody. So but a lot of these guys picked up the slack and other things, just logistics and supporting the bigger picture for the community. It's like everybody pulled together for the one goal. That's to take care of our people in the parish, and every day work to that way and make sure we're looking after each other and continue to doing that. And to me, that was probably one of my proudest moments, watching all of these guys come together, doing things that they didn't even realize they'd ever be doing, and outside the scope of their normal duties and responsibilities, but stepping up to the plate and seeing something need to be done, and they did it without question, and just and was happy about doing it because they knew it was for a greater cause than themselves.
Now, let me ask you this, and this is the obvious, and we'll try to finish it on this segment, but if not, we have another segment. Because you're a Marine, you run through brick walls sometimes, and then you get elected to office, and the brick walls have a lot of bureaucratic red tape around them, and sometimes you got to get on the phone, and you got to convince people it's a good idea, and you got to wait for people, and you got to be patient. That's why I always said I never would probably be a good elected official because I want to get it done. You sort of the same way. Did you have to learn some patience along the way?
A little bit of patience on certain things, but, you know, as a sheriff, the office holder, I can make decisions for my office, and I answer to the people on those decisions I'll make.
Yeah.
The people that elected me. But, you know, I put a lot of common sense to a lot of things, and sometimes maybe that ain't common.
Well, you do make a great point because you don't have to go in front of a 9-person council.
No.
You just have to go make the decision and account for it.
And I have to justify my actions on what I'm doing.
Right.
And, you know, everything we're doing is really to advance our office, increasing services that we can better serve our community. And some of the preparations that we've been doing for the last 2.5 years since IDA is really from lessons learned in IDA and infrastructure that not only from day-to-day operations, but more importantly during emergency operations, we can even do better than we did last time. And I owe that to our people in our community.
All right, let's hold that thought. We're going to take a short break with the sheriff of Terrebonne Parish. He's got a whole new set of years, reelected without opposition. We'll take a break. We'll come back with our final segment with Sheriff Tim Soignet. Don't go away. Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. All right, we're back talking with Sheriff Tim Soignet, and around this time, and you'll see on HTV, we'll have forums with candidates running against each other. But just because the sheriff won re-election without opposition, we still wanted to bring him on because he deserved to come on. And so it's no forum. It's just a conversation with the sheriff of Terrebonne Parish. Budget-wise, I've seen a lot of people get in trouble over the years on budgets because they spent too much or were fiscally irresponsible. You're doing pretty good, aren't you?
We're doing quite well.
Yeah. And what's your, I guess, your mode of operation when it comes to spending? How do you have a certain, everybody has a different methods. What's yours?
Well, just like anything, when it comes to doing work, we bid. But I'm not scared to tell somebody to sharpen their pencil. And I mean, anybody knows me when they deal with a sharpen your pencil. I'm not looking at the first price, and I'm really going to look at it. Can we do it better? Can we do it a little less?
Because you can rebid it, can you?
I can rebid, and we've done that. And but more importantly, I mean, it's looking at just the day-to-day operations on what we do. We don't really outsource a lot. I got mechanics. I have IT things, and I mean, I have people that's HVAC when it comes to doing repairs and from body work. And it's just a lot of the ins and outs to get very expensive if you outsource. But we've been able to do quite well, and it saves a lot of money. We're not spending it. So, looking at what we do from day to day and not spending it kind of gives us a good idea. It's like, the first year, I think when I took office, I was like, okay, I'm holding on. And after a while, I'm like, okay. I felt pretty comfortable. Then the first year, we didn't buy any units. And in the second year, okay, we bought some. And it took a while to get them. Then it's after Ida, we're getting the things we purchased. And I said, I looked at it from a response and everything. We bought trucks. And you see police trucks out there. Well, I said, the best thing I realized during Ida, I said, the only thing that really was effective for us for vehicles, a lot of the sedans were ineffective because of the area is kind of hard to get around. I bought trucks. I said, that was the best thing we could have ever done. However, I got them after Ida, but I learned our trucks was the most useful thing. It's for us to get around during the storm. And I said, well, then all of a sudden we're getting 20 after the storm. It's like it was meant to be. But, looking at emergency response, effectiveness, where something, I don't need to have a fleet of trucks and a fleet of sedans. The trucks, they're good on fuel. They can serve as the day-to-day operation and emergency response operation. So I don't need to have a double set of fleets. So, it's just having good investments that's not only going to work for day-to-day, but during emergencies as well.
Right, and every vehicle really becomes an emergency vehicle.
That's correct. And, and it's just things in our office from what we experienced during the storm, our old motor pool, that's now my criminal investigative division. But when we got our insurance, we went ahead and took the second bay. I closed the first bay, and it's now it's criminal investigative division plus office spaces. I took the second bay. We insulated. I put air conditioning. I got showers. I got laundry. I have all of that capability for a storm. If there's a storm, I got a place to put my people. And now we got a place to operate if there's a storm. Plus, I have fuel tanks in Gray. I have fuel tanks at our old motor pool, which is now our criminal investigative division. And to give you an example alone, we went probably close to almost about 9,000 gallons of fuel in a month during the storm at that tempo. I have 24,000 gallons of fuel.
You got your own battalion.
Well, I have all of my logistics for us to maintain a good operating pace without any external need for anything, the function. And, so if there's a devastating, getting fuel is not an issue. I said, us be able to do this, we're able to do this now. During the storm, I can get fuel. We can work to get fuel, but now I'd rather shift gears instead of getting fuel from offices. Shift gears and let's get the fuel out to these gas stations for the community. Because at first, it was always, okay, get the fuel, because we need something to operate until we get the people back, and then we got to work on getting. I can shift gears now for the things that we've been able to do.
Right.
I can get fuel for them. I'd rather the optics of my officers getting fuel at a gas station when people are trying to scrounge it. I didn't like the optics.
That's a great point.
And the important part is we had to get the fuel there knowing that we needed it. But now I could still work on getting fuel and open up that for the community so we get our community on their feet even faster. To me, it was important doing those things.
Let me ask you about a minute and a half left. You went through Ida. You went through COVID. The next few years, shouldn't it be a little better?
Well, I would hope so. I would hope so, but
Yeah, you deserve some
we
laid
spent-
back years.
I think in my first year, I think I spent more time on a news desk with all these close call storms,
You did.
and
And you were calling all these storms and doing all this, and I'm going like, my God, I've never really interviewed him about anything else. It's all storms.
it was a lot of storms. But I mean, I guess we had a lot of good practice runs up
Mm-hmm.
to Ida, but you know, it was all preparing for emergency. And I'm like, look, I pray to God that we don't ever have, but you know what? We got to be prepared, and we owe that to the community to be prepared to deal with that. And, you know, I want people to stay. This is our home, and I want people to stay in our home. But we owe it to them, make sure we get everything in line so we can rebuild as fast as possible or make it as smooth as possible so we can better serve our people.
And real quick, I just mentioned the toys around Christmas time and everything. I know you're still working on that, so I just want to thank you. I mean, a very tough 4 years when we add in Ida and COVID and different things, but I don't want to go through this interview and not have brought out the great things that you've been doing. And so thank you for that.
Thank
we
you,
look
sir.
forward to working with you
Thank you.
for a long number of years, and I guess we'll see you on the next news item.
Yes,
Yeah?
sir.
All right, Sheriff. Good
Thank
to
you.
see you.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Mark.
there you have it. Sheriff Tim Soignet. We'll take a short break. We'll be back with more right here on Bayou Time.